Ephesians Chapter 6, Through the Bible. Part 5. The Soldier's Enemy. Now we come to the theme of this chapter, which is, the church is a good soldier of Jesus Christ. We have seen the Christian in his relationships. God begins with him in the home. Then God has something to say to him as he moves out into the world where he is either an employee or an employer. He has to be one or the other. And as a child of God, he has to contribute to the welfare of contemporary society. He needs to be a producer one way or the other. Now we learn of the soldier's enemy. There is a battle to be fought. One of the things that is commonly misunderstood today is that the child of God is in a battle, and the battle is being fought along spiritual lines. If the duties which relate to the commonplace are not faithfully followed, there can be no great spiritual victories in the high realm of Christian attainments. It is pretty well known that I represent the fundamental position. I am premillennial, pre-tribulational, and a dispensationalist in my belief. I get a little weary and a little bored with folk who so insistently hold these same views, yet whose lives are lived in a very careless manner, not commensurate with this exalted high position that we have. We are seated in the heavenlies. How wonderful! My friend, we are walking right down here on this earth, and our theology has to walk in shoe leather. If you are not living a life that pleases Christ, you are wasting your time attending Keswick conferences and Bible classes. Often in Christian circles we see a display of bitterness, vitriol, and hatred, which hurts the cause of Christ a great deal. Why is it that we can have so much exalted teaching and such low living? There are too many who are fundamental in their heads, but liberal in their feet. There is a great danger in thinking that all we need is a head knowledge and a vocabulary so that we can spout out our position lucidly and fluently, but can lead careless Christian lives. To do this is to misunderstand where the battle is being fought. I do not think the devil is concentrating in the nightclubs, or on Skid Row, or in the underworld, or in the mafia. I think he is concentrating on the church on Sunday morning. He is working on the spiritual front, and too many sleepy Christians seem to be totally unaware of that. Too many Christians are concerned about closing up the cocktail parlors when they need to be closing their mouths from gossiping and criticizing. The devil is working in an area where we least expect to find him. He is not out on the town on Saturday night. He has gone to bed early so he can get up and go to church on Sunday morning. The spiritual battle is being fought wherever a man is giving out the Word of God, where a church is standing for the Word of God. That is the place the devil wants to destroy, and that is the place of the spiritual battle. Sometimes the most dangerous place you can be is in church on Sunday morning. Where was the most dangerous place in Jerusalem the night Jesus was arrested? Was it with the Pharisees? Was it with the cutthroats of the underworld? No. The most dangerous place was in the upper room with Jesus. Do you know why? That is where the devil was that night. It is said that he entered into Judas Iscariot to betray him. The devil was there. I believe both Judas Iscariot and Simon Peter would testify to the fact that that was the most dangerous place to have been that night in Jerusalem. We need to recognize where the battle is being fought. You may remember that at the beginning of our study in this epistle to the Ephesians, I compared it to the book of Joshua. What Joshua is to the Old Testament, Ephesians is to the New Testament. Joshua led the children of Israel across the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, and there were enemies in the land. There were battles to be fought, and there were victories to be won. The Jordan River is not a picture of our death, and the Promised Land is not a picture of heaven. If you want to sing "On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wistful eye," you may, but that does not speak of our death. It actually speaks of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, and you and I cross over, through the death and resurrection of Christ, out of the wilderness of this world into Canaan. The child of God should be living today in Canaan. Remember that Canaan does not represent heaven, It could not, because there were enemies in Canaan and battles to be fought. You and I as believers are in the place of soldier service. The soldier's enemy is identified, and the battle is before us. When Joshua entered the Promised Land, there were 3 enemies that confronted him. First, there was the city of Jericho, standing right in the way. Jericho represents the world today. What Jericho was to Joshua, the world is to the Christian. Joshua was told to march around the city, not fight it. We cannot overcome the world by fighting the world. It is a mistake if we try that method. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Jesus is the Son of God? 1 John 5 verses 4 and 5. The only way we can overcome the world is by our faith and trust in God. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. 1 John 2 verse 15. The things of the world are passing away, and the child of God is not to love them. Our experience here is to be a Canaan experience. The second enemy confronted by Joshua was the little town of Ai. Ai represents the flesh. Joshua thought it would be easy to overcome Ai, so he sent up a small detachment, and they were really whipped. When they came back, Joshua got down on his face and began to whimper and cry before God. God told him, "Get thee up. Wherefore liest thou thus upon thy face? Israel hath sinned." Joshua 7 verses 10 and 11. And that sin had to be confessed and put away before God would give Israel the victory. And this is what you and I must do if we are to overcome the flesh.